I've owned an Xbox for about 20 years now. Yes, this is the 360 controller, but the Xbox, the original one, it not only became my most preferred platform to play on, but it also became kind of like a first brand or company I kind of became a fan of. And as a fan, the past couple weeks, hell, really past year, has been a really, I don't even know the word, conversation in the Xbox community. And I just wanted to make this video not to rile people up or to create echo chambers, but just hopefully to rationalize and explain why I don't think Xbox going multi-platform is a bad thing. In fact, it's probably going to lead to one of the craziest shifts in gaming we have seen in a very long time. Xbox exclusives, they're kind of gone now in a sense. They're not entirely gone the way people make it out to be, but it has people asking the question, what's the point of even owning an Xbox anymore? There's this feeling that money has to just be looked at as a form of greed. If you make more than you are able to live comfortably, then it is greed and you are a money robber or whatever. Money is a tool to create. Money is a showing of results. I see a lot of people just looking at Microsoft as a company that, Xbox runs under, and it's just like, they're a $4 trillion company. They could throw all the money they want at the wall. And it's like, it's not a charity. Any company, especially one that has as many eyes on them as Microsoft, like they have to keep their value up. If they just spend like crazy with absolutely no profit generated from it, then that's going to look terrible to investors. So just because Microsoft has all the money in the world, that doesn't mean that they're just going to use it all. It's about being smart about it. And as much as I hate to admit it, art is a business. I used to be a filmmaker, and I read that in one of my books that I had to go through, and he explained it perfectly, that just as much as people want art to just be this happy free world, it is absolutely a hobby and it's fun. But if it's to be your job, and if it is to be able to expand, you're going to need the means to do it. Companies can't just do stuff out of pocket like me and other content creators do. But why is Xbox doing this multi-plat strategy instead of doing what works for PlayStation and Nintendo by just having everything be exclusive? 2013 through 2020, Xbox lost the most important generation to lose between the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. And the reason this is really important is because this is when people made their digital libraries. We were all about physical media before then, but that was the generation that physical media, it started to just wither away and still exists, but people created these digital libraries that when they bought 100 games on PlayStation, they're not just going to jump ship and go to Xbox because they have all those games on PlayStation that they're just abandoning. They're not going to do it. And while Game Pass was a great incentive to, at least make Xbox your secondary place to try out these things, it wasn't really the thing that was going to make the company profitable, and also the thing to fund these games that potentially cost hundreds of millions of dollars. The same kind of games that lead to studio closures and whatnot that we have seen plenty of times, even before the stuff we've seen in recent years. They needed a solution to fight this unwinnable war that they were put in. And that's just to acknowledge that they lost that. So how can they do something different? Let me ask you, did you notice when this whole exclusivity thing started, it was like 4 or 5 months after Activision Blizzard King became part of Xbox? They had that business meeting in January or February in 2024 explaining, we're just going to be testing these 4 games, which, by the way, that was not a lie. It was a test. They didn't say nothing else was coming. They just said, they're trying it out. More or less could happen. A test with IP that was safe to test with. It was all these Xbox original stuff and things that were a brand new IP, like Grounded, Hi-Fi Rush, and Pentiment. 3 new IP that reviewed very well from their first party people. Let's try to see how that does on other platforms. And that test must have gone really well, because later on we would see Indiana Jones get announced in a big way coming to PlayStation 5. I don't feel that would have been announced in the way that it was if that test wasn't successful. But the big worry that everybody has from all these rumors right now is, will Halo, Gears, Forza, Fable, will they show up on rival platforms? Well, we kind of have signs that that is probably a inevitable future now. Because the past couple weeks as I record this, we see Forza Horizon 5, a staple Xbox IP, whatever, coming to PlayStation, and we see Age of Empires, a staple Microsoft PC IP, coming to PlayStation. So that's the situation. And the reason they're doing it is what other publishers are already kind of seeing. People like Square Enix and Ubisoft realizing we need to make our games more accessible in terms of our like day one launches, because these games are too expensive and they are not successful enough to warrant the means to, again, create. These ballooning game budgets are happening, and unless something changes, these studios, publishers, whatever, are gonna have to do something drastic about it, as we have already seen. Hence, stop doing exclusives. But if they do this, won't Xbox be gone as a console and PlayStation can just control that part of the market? That is an absolutely fair worry, and I absolutely get it, because if that did happen, it's scary. But hardware is confirmed for next gen. We know there's a PlayStation 6 in the works. We know there's a next generation console for Xbox in the works. And honestly, that will probably be the last console generation for everybody but Nintendo. That is a really nerve-wracking thought to me as somebody that is very much a console boy. But what we have seen the past 5 years is the majority of spending in terms of multiplat games is starting to become Steam. There's so many success stories last year of having the biggest launch ever when IP that never had a Steam launch day one did, and they got to break records for it. Hell, PlayStation being the most direct comparison to Xbox that people do, Helldivers 2. That is a PlayStation Studios project, and it became their fastest selling title ever. Yes, it was $40. Yes, it was a great game, but it was also 2 platforms instead of 1. But let's put a bookmark on that, okay? In terms of just consoles changing, Xbox isn't going anywhere. We don't have evidence that all games are going to be like day one launching on PlayStation and Nintendo or whatever. Just look at this year with Avowed, South of Midnight, Fable. Those are games that are not announced to be coming to PlayStation or Nintendo. Yes, the word yet is true, but they aren't. I see a lot of fans out there that have this idea of the Trojan horse strategy that I don't think of it in the way that they think of it as this console war thing where it's like, oh, Xbox is going to sell their games on other platforms and use that money for their own benefit, which is true. I think of it more of a Trojan horse that is the sampling. Put these Xbox games on other platforms, but they are the tastes of the IP. They are the tastes of the IP. You get Master Chief Collection before Halo Infinite. You get Forza Horizon 5 before Forza Horizon 6. You get Sea of Thieves before Everwild. Like, those newer ones over here, you could still only play those on Xbox, but you could sample over here and see what we got over here. That's one part of it that's keeping Xbox as a platform safe. The other thing that proves like multi-platform stuff isn't going to screw them, Call of Duty became an Xbox first-party IP, and they launched it day one on Game Pass. And a lot of people thought that would cannibalize it. And you know, the sales of that is going to suck, and then it's going to result in a lot more closures and whatnot. But Black Ops 6 somehow managed to become not only the biggest launch in Call of Duty history, but it also managed to become the most sold game of 2024, while being a day one launch with Game Pass. And you might be thinking, yeah, that's because it was multi-platform or whatever. Well, get this. Not since 2014 has there been a Call of Duty that has been most played on Xbox. It has always been most played on PlayStation. 2024, Black Ops 6 broke that 9-year record and managed to be the most played on Xbox, probably thanks to Game Pass. The Call of Duty example is what Xbox hopes. Let's become the most sold game of the year by selling it on other platforms and generating that 70%, or yeah, And let's get more people involved in Xbox by launching it day one on Game Pass. The Xbox console isn't going anywhere. But what's the point of even getting an Xbox now if there's no exclusives? If you can gamble and wait for the chance that an Xbox game will come to PlayStation and Switch too, that might be the best idea, honestly, because then you'll just be able to get everything. But if you can't wait, I simplify it to this. If you have all the money and time in the world, get a PlayStation and just buy everything. If you're down to try more things on a budget, then get an Xbox with Game Pass Ultimate. For PlayStation or Nintendo, frankly, for $360, you could get 3 of that platform's exclusives and 3 Xbox multiplats that will come whenever they come. Or for that same year on Xbox for $240, you could, from May last year, from May to this year, you could play 8 Xbox first-party games, along with a dozen other titles that are ranging from indie to AAA. And by the way, more than half of those first-party titles are not announced to be coming to PlayStation or Nintendo, by the way. What's the point of getting an Xbox? There's really 3 points. 1, there's no guarantee yet that all Xbox games will especially be launching day one on Nintendo or PlayStation. 2, in terms of consoles, Xbox is the only place that you can get Game Pass. So that's really my biggest thing. But 3, if you don't care for subscriptions or Game Pass, but you do like to bounce around and cross-save and cross-progression and all that jazz, then for Xbox first-party stuff, when you buy it once, you could play it anywhere. Buy the game once and play it on either or your console or PC. But next gen, however, they're going to need something to entice people a bit more than just those 3 points that I said, because sadly, while you, a hardcore, might watch this, the general public will not really see it or care. Again, share this with your friends. That is hopefully that general public that is questioning things. But here's the thing. PlayStation got really cocky when they announced the PS5 Pro price, because that, with the stand and everything, it makes it in like the teeter-totter line between, you know, just console at home and mid-tier PC. Xbox could respond to that, but better. They could make their next console really run the line between console and PC and price it at $800, which, yes, is expensive, but for a hybrid that can run using the Xbox OS, that can also run games from Steam. Huh? The age of Steam is approaching, with most people turning out to move over to that platform, and rumors of Steam making a console that would potentially be the end of Xbox and PlayStation. Especially, like, if you've seen how much it's progressed these past 5 years, imagine how much it's going to progress in the next 5 years. So Xbox jumping on that hybrid model, that's them getting ready for what this next phase is, that we're kind of leaving behind the traditional console wars. And instead of using these Logitechs or Rogue Allies or whatever, you know, I can even keep track of all them, these third-party machines to play PC stuff, because that's really what they are, you could play with the Xbox machine that just becomes the one to get. Phil stated in a recent podcast that he wants the hardware to sell the hardware and the games to sell the games, which I think is honestly perfect. Because if an Xbox hybrid console could play Steam games, that also means that they could play PlayStation games that have been released on Steam. And let me tell you, if that happens, that is going to be the end of exclusives. Because the PlayStation 6 era, they probably would stop launching games on Steam and just make their own marketplace to launch PC games on. But we have seen through others like EA and Ubisoft that that's just a bad idea, to make your own launcher. Like, if you sell on PC, you have to sell on Steam. That's just the only way you're going to be profitable. So if both machines are running Steam, then that essentially is the console's way to combat PC gaming, but still have a hand on the steering wheel by making people do it through their hardware. And that, my friend, is the end of exclusives. And that's the new war Xbox is gearing up for. It's no longer the console war. They're gearing up to jump on the content wars. And if that happens, then you have a reason to get an Xbox. Just being excited about the games again is what really is enticing to me, because like just game trailers are something that I find the most exciting thing, whether a game's exclusive or not, because of the hype around them. And I'm not talking about the first time reveals for a game. I'm talking about those showcase trailers like the Breath of the Wild one, where I wasn't a Zelda fan whatsoever, but I felt like this is an event that I cannot miss. That's what we'll be diving into next, where I ask you, what is one of your favorite game trailers of all time? I'm going to compile your answers and bring that up in the next video, so share your voice in the comments down below, or why you still might keep your Xbox or get a new one.